All right, class. Welcome to lesson 2 of Unit 4B, What is Money? Before we start this lesson, we'll want to take a look at the homework answers. And so as you take a look at these answers, I want to reiterate the importance of ensuring that you have lesson 1 complete and ready to go, because that's some believe that that is the hardest lesson of this unit because of the complexities of the math and understanding what's going on. So make sure you understand how banks create money and how they destroy money, the deposits, the creation, the lending, all those kinds of things. And so make sure you go through that before we get on to the next things, because this is only a 4-lesson unit, and so the end will come quickly, and we do not want to fall too far behind. And so today we're looking at what is money. Money. We want to explore this concept a little bit. And so by the end of this lesson, hopefully we'll know how to evaluate the characteristics of money. We'll understand the need to have a monetary unit and understand why it exists and how money works, right? Why was money first invented? And so hopefully by the end of this, you'll be able to have good discussions about what is good money at home or with your friends or whatnot, and also completion of the review and the homework from this lesson. So, but before we go on, I want to make sure you understand that today's lesson is quite short. The content is not heavy. It's fairly, I hope, simple to understand. But there's quite a bit of reading after it, and so there's a bunch of reading in the textbook that is historical in nature. Some of it talks about where did money come from, why it exists a little bit, and so this lesson's short. Not academically difficult per se, but there is some time that you'll have to take in the textbook and doing some readings. And so on that note, let's go on to why does money exist? So money was invented and created for some specific kinds of reasons. And so the one is that money is a medium of exchange. And so ultimately, why do we have money? Money is designed to buy things or to invest in things, or to buy investments, I should say. So money is used to transact. And that's the primary function of what money does. It's there because it needs to transact things. It's used to exchange money for goods or services, right? And so before money was invented, barter and trade was required, right? So you had to ensure that you wanted to get something, and to get that thing, you'd have to trade with someone else to get it. And so that sounds fine and dandy, but problems existed with this system, which is why money is forced to be there, to forced to enable and be a medium of exchange for these transactions, because the double coincidence of wants exists, right? And so what is this double coincidence of wants, right? It is, if you want something, you must find a person who has what you want, right? But at the same time wants what you have, because you may find someone who has what you want, and that's great, but if they don't want what you have to give them, how are you going to get what you want from them, right? And that's the whole premise behind barter. Barter says we trade goods back and forth, and so if you want that thing, you need to find a way to get what that person wants, and that could take you longer. That could be impossible. That's just a poor methodology to get transactions and to get economy working. And so money solves this problem, because money is what we use to transact versus product for product or product for services, right? So here's an example. So we have the man on the left. He can give away shoes, but he wants a hammer. The middle person, he can give rice, but he wants shoes. And so yes, he might want the shoes from this person, but this person wants a hammer, and this person gives rice, and so they can't transact. This person said, oh, I need rice, and so he wants to transact with this person, but this person only has fish to give this person, and this person doesn't want fish, this person wants shoes, and so they can't transact either. And these two people have nothing in common, right? And so ultimately, what do they need? They need to find a fourth person who has hammers to give and wants fish, and then the four of them can make a transaction together. But again, that's not easy. That is a difficult thing to do, especially in a large marketplace, right? So we don't want to have to deal with those things. It's better if this person wants to get the hammer with money. This person can get the shoes with money, right? So that's much simpler to do, right? So money solves the problem of the double coincidence of wants. That's the first and most important function of money. The second function of money is a measure of value, right? And so money creates a standard unit exchange. And so, again, in that previous example, that person had to try to get, a hammer with shoes. But how much is a hammer worth? Are they worth one shoe? Are they worth a pair of shoes? How many grains of rice is it going to take to get a fish? Or, like, what do we do? How do we transact this way? Do we have this massive ledger with every single product on it to find out, okay, well, that product is worth that many of that product, which is worth that many of that product, and we have to figure out exactly what things are worth. And so that makes life very, very difficult. Money creates a unit that we can all, agree to exchange for. And so instead of trying to figure out how many shoes I need to give up to get the hammer, the person who's selling the hammer just says, I want $12 for this hammer, right? They don't care about shoes. They just care about the money, right? And so money allows us to have a kind of a common ground where we have units of exchange versus trying to figure out different products. Okay, so that's the second function of money. The third function of money is a store of value. And what does a store of value mean? A store of value talks about the ability to store value of money, or in other words, to store purchasing power. So again, what is money good for? Money doesn't have any intrinsic value or inherent value in itself. That piece of paper or plastic that you have is meaningless other than for what it can buy you, right? If it can't buy you anything, then you might as well just burn it because it has no value, right? So money has to be able to store value. It has to be able to store the ability to buy things. And so if you save your money, you want to be very confident that when you take that money back out of the bank or wherever it is, it has stored $100 worth of purchasing power to buy a $100 item later. And so if it can't store or save purchasing power, that's a problem. Okay, so for example, if we use coins, we use bills. These are things that don't go bad. They don't degrade so much. Yeah, eventually they do, right? So imagine if someone had the bright idea, let's make money out of a perishable food item. That's ridiculous because then your money will start to lose its purchasing power very, very quickly, and you can't use it in the future. And so a store of value is a main function of money. One of the top three functions of money, right? And so there are a couple things here that we want to talk about. So first is liquidity, right? Money needs to be liquid. Money needs to be able to make payment, right? And so you want to think about, you have a checking account, right? So money that's in your checking account, you can get very, very quickly to pay for things, okay? So that's money. I think we can all agree that is money. There's also money in your savings account. And so that money is not meant to be used frequently. It's meant to be saved. It might get you a little bit of a higher interest rate or whatnot. And so is that money? And so I think most people will say, yeah, of course that's money. That's my cash in the bank, right? What if you buy, a government bond? What if you have a GIC, right? So you've bought an investment, and you can convert that to cash pretty easily, but is that money, right? And so you have to try to figure out, what is the actual definition of money here? Like how liquid this piece of or this asset is or this money is, you will kind of classify it differently in terms of, is it actually money? And so part of your reading will be to read about what the definitions of money are. But the best fast access money is the most liquid. How quickly can I convert that thing, whatever it may be, into cash, right? And so lots of people talk about things like cryptocurrency, right? I can't take cryptocurrency that I have right now in Canada and use it at the convenience store. I can't do it, right? I need cash, I need a credit card, or I need my bank card, right? That's why the cryptocurrency that someone might have in their crypto wallet is not liquid enough to be mass transacted type of money yet, right? And that's coming very, very soon, I think. So that's the first point about the store value of money. The next one is inflation. And so if we think about inflation, we learned about CPI and price stability already. And so if we think about what does inflation do to money, right? Inflation actually reduces the value of money. And so let's just make sure we understand that inflation makes prices go up. So what used to cost $5 now costs $5.50. And so if you had $5 before, that can no longer buy you the same thing it could a year later. And so what does inflation do to store value? It actually reduces money's ability to store value, right? And so inflation is problematic for people who are avid savers. And so if you talk to anyone who is maybe in finance or the investing industry, or even just talks to young people about investing and what to use with their money, lots of people are going to tell you, save your money, save your money, save your money. Yeah, and that's 100% true. You should save your money. However, what they fail to tell you is that if you just throw your money into a checkings or a savings account that bears very, very little interest, you're not saving money. You're actually destroying your ability to spend. Because if you're earning 1% interest and inflation is 2%, then you're actually losing value on every dollar that is in your savings account. Every year. Every year that your inflation, the world or the Canadian inflation, the CPI inflation has gone up more than what your return is on your savings account. That's why everyone talks about you need to invest your money, right? They could be very, very low risk investments, but they need to beat inflation at the bare minimum for you not to be losing value on the money that you're storing away, right? So you want your money to store value consistently. So the next thing we want to talk about is what should money be? We talked about what money does, or what it's supposed to do at least, right? Store value, it's supposed to do certain types of things. But what should money be like? Money has to have a certain characteristics to actually be functionally useful. And so the first one we want to talk about is portability, right? And so portability is if I have coins, I can carry them around. If I have bills, I can carry them relatively light. They're good. If I have a bank card, my money is very, very portable, right? And so these kinds of technology things are making money more and more portable. A lot of you pay for things on your phones. Portability is a big, big deal. And so I'm going to show you a picture. I took this picture when I was in Germany, and so we were at a museum, and you can't really tell by the picture, but this coin, I'll tell you, I ruined the surprise. This coin is massive. It was probably like 3 feet tall. Obviously, it's a stone, and so if it was 3 feet tall, it was very, very heavy, right? And so this was one of the earliest forms of money, or earliest coins that was dated. It's from China, and so I took a picture of it because I teach this course, and I saw it, and I was like, "Oh, that's fascinating," because how useful is this thing in terms of a piece of money, right? It's so huge. It's not portable. It's not easy to transact with, right? And so it loses its value. It loses its functionality. Like, why does it actually exist, right? And so if the money's not portable, it's not that usable, okay? So the next function is it easy to use? Again, that other one, that huge coin, not easy to use. And I'm going to go back to cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrency, for the common person doing common transactions, it is not easy to use, right? It is very difficult to do common everyday things with these things. And so that's why people might say, well, it's not real money, even though it holds value. It does many of the same things that money does, but how easy is this to be used? And for it to get common acceptance throughout the world, it needs to have a better method of transacting, which, again, they're working on. There are many, many types, and it will happen at some point in time. And so the next one is that it has to be durable, right? And so I've alluded to this in a couple of my comments before when I said paper or plastic money. When we talk about coins or metal, the durability of money is very, very important. And so at this time, I'm going to take us to another document. It's a Bank of Canada notes fact sheet. And so this is a document on the Bank of Canada website that I pulled off about Canadian bills. And so what do our notes look like? And right, the first thing is, I think most of you know, Canadian money is polymer. It is plastic. It is not paper. It does not rip. Like if you take out a bill that you have right now that is a Canadian bill, you cannot rip it. Right? Maybe you can stretch it out or like kind of tear it, but you cannot rip one of these bills. Try it right now. You won't be able to do it. They are very, very, very durable. Right? Right on this sheet, it says durability is part of what it should be. Right? That's our next function or characteristic of money. Right? So we'll look at a few more things. And so durability. The polymer notes last 2.5 times longer than cotton paper notes. This saves massive amount of money and processing and replacement costs. We want that to be true. Okay? And so durability is a big deal. We want our money to retain value and hold the value for as long as we can have it. It needs to be divisible, right? We can't just be walking around with $100 bills. We need different types of, or not different types. We need different currency amounts, right? A $1 coin, a $2 coin, a $5 bill, a $10 bill, a quarter, a dime, a nickel. And previously we had pennies. Pennies are now gone, right? And so pennies made money more divisible, but they weren't worth the trouble, right? Pennies weren't worth the amount of money. Pennies cost more to make than the cent that they were worth in terms of transacting, right? And so Canada got rid of the penny. There are lots of other countries in the world who also have gotten rid of their lowest monetary unit. So it needs to be divisible, but again, how divisible it needs to be is another question for efficiency and money saving practices. The next one needs to be recognizable, and so we'll go back to our fact sheet. All these notes they have very, very specific things on them. Our money, lots of people will maybe laugh at our money, or Americans might laugh at our money because it's so colorful, all these different colors on them, but you could pick out Canadian money. I could pick it out. I can see it, right? It has to be recognizable. It has to look a specific way. We want our money to be relatively unique, right? Part of these new notes are that they're very, very innovative, right? So we want to make sure that we can recognize our money because every business needs to be able to notice, every individual should know what money looks like. The next one is easy to authenticate. So when you say easy to authenticate, you need to be able to say it's recognizable, one, by sight, but you need to be able to figure out, is this actually money? Is this counterfeit or whatnot? So I used to work at Royal Bank in the business banking, I guess I'll call it a cage. And so people would drop off bags of money from their businesses every day. So lunchtime would happen, these small businesses would drop off a bag of money into our big business cage, and we'd have to count and authenticate. And so I guarantee you, I would be able to feel if it was real money or not. But even before it became plastic, I could feel a real bill versus a counterfeit bill if it wasn't extraordinary, right? So there were times where I'd be counting money and I could tell just by touch that it wasn't real. Also, you'll notice that sometimes you go into a store, if you give them a really big bill, they'll slip it under this light that will shine certain imagery on that bill to make sure, oh, that's authentic or it's not. Or some people will have this little, I guess it's like a marker kind of thing that they write or they put strike through on the money. And if it's fake, it'll look different than if it's real. And so you want businesses and individuals to be able to authenticate, is this actually really money or is it not money? And so that comes to our next point, right? It has to be easy to authenticate, but at the same time hard to counterfeit, right? We don't want people counterfeiting our money, right? Because that's going to, first of all, it'll cause major problems in terms of people's trust in our currency. And depending on how much is counterfeited, maybe there's going to be inflation, right? Who knows? But regardless, the value of our currency would go down significantly if we had so many counterfeit bills out there that people could not figure out what was real and what was not. And so if we look at Canadian money, there is a whole portion of this new polymers that were created that are very, very hard to counterfeit. All these very, very specific features are hard to make, right? Like if you're going to put the time and money into making counterfeit Canadian bills, you're risking massive amounts of investments, and it's going to be very difficult, right? All these specific things have to be exact. And maybe even I couldn't tell a counterfeit if it was really, really well done. But each bill has separate things that are specific to it that the counterfeiter would have to figure out and know. And so it has to be hard to counterfeit. An easy to counterfeit thing is not going to be very good. And so the last one is retained value, and that's very similar to the store of value conversation and inflation. And so if you're well versed in history, you'll notice that you'll have read about hyperinflation in certain countries where the money that people had effectively became worthless. It's happened in Germany. It happened in Zimbabwe. And so there are stories of people with wheelbarrows, right? Wheelbarrows full of cash, like just massive amounts of cash to pay for and to buy a loaf of bread, right? The wheelbarrow that they're rolling around things in is worth more than the pile of cash that they had. So I'm just going to show you an example of a bill. This is a $10 billion Zimbabwean bill. This was a while ago. And when central banks start printing off money, and so they can just run the presses and just print. When you start printing off more money, there's more money around. Hyperinflation is going to happen, and everyone's money loses value. And so that's hugely problematic. And you're going to hear about this and read about this right now. Like Canada, US, countries are printing money. And so, again, I'm not saying that's going to happen, but when governments print money to fight certain crises or economic situations, they are risking a certain amount of inflation or hyperinflation if it gets too far. And so money needs to be and do and have all these characteristics. Again, remember those Zimbabwean dollars or in Germany, the Deutschmark, like if the money is not useful as a medium of exchange to buy and sell things, it's not useful as money, right? We're talking about millions of dollars not being able to buy small, tiny little things, right? And so that talks to what money should be. And so we talked today about the functions of money and the characteristics of money. I think relatively simple to go through, but just understanding what money is, why it exists, is very important. So again, if you have any questions from today's lesson, please send me messages, and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Thank you.